Good afternoon. Christina, thank you for all of the work that you all are doing. Thank you. So it's January 2009 in Washington, D.C., and it's as cold as it wants to be. And it's Barack Obama's first presidential inauguration. So I travel up there with a few friends, and I'm staying with a good friend by the name of Cassius Priestley. And in the same house with me is Rodney Jr. and Rodney Sr. And I didn't know it then, but I was getting ready to experience a history lesson that you cannot be taught in school. As we visited the mall in Washington, D.C. every day, riding the trains because we couldn't drive down to park, with hand warmers in our coat pockets. Every step we took was filled with a history lesson from Rodney Hearst. When we got back to the house, over every meal, every plate was filled with a history lesson from Rodney Hearst. So from 2009 until today, I have had the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor of sitting at that table, meal after meal, with Rodney Hearst, consuming and digesting Black and civil rights history that cannot be taught in schools. So I want to say thank you, Rodney Hearst. Thank you for making the ultimate sacrifice, dedicating your life to the struggle for respect and dignity. Thank you for incessantly resisting the status quo and calling out racism for what it is. Thank you for personifying the beautiful spirit of Rutledge Pearson. Thank you for constantly pushing us all to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. Rodney Lawrence Hearst Sr., thank you. So I do have a few announcements to make, but before I make those announcements, I want to talk a little bit about what I like to call the work, what Rodney likes to call the struggle. And the work is the work of racial equity and social justice. And it's all of our responsibility, especially those in leadership and decision-making positions. To those in the education space, we have to tell the truth about history. We must be courageous enough to challenge what Uncle Rodney likes to call an incomplete, dishonest, and racist history. When we do, we broaden the purview of possibility for our young people. If we don't, we are committing the same epistemological violence that happened right here 60 years ago. We also must develop educators differently. Chris came up and talked about the Center for Urban Education and Policy. One of the initiatives that I direct is called the Urban Education Scholars Initiative. And what we do is we recruit historically underrepresented students desiring to pursue careers in education. And we do this so that we can diversify the teacher education pipeline. Nationally, 80% of our teachers are white women. Only 2% are Black male. Only 1% are Hispanic male. And if we're honest with ourselves, the problems that we see in the education system today exist with Black males. But I am here to tell you that there is nothing wrong with our young Black males, except America thinks there is something wrong with our Black males. To those in corporate America, we have to recognize and appreciate the economic advantage that comes with diversifying our workforce, particularly in leadership positions. This means we must suspend the homosocial reproduction that occurs too often in our organizations. This is going to be uncomfortable. And it's going to be uncomfortable because of how we've neglected this idea about race and racism over the years. There's this Dr. David Thomas. He's the president of Morehouse College now, and he's a Harvard alum. He just wrote an article recently mentioning that most corporate organizations are ill-equipped to deal with this race conversation that needs to be had. And the reason that they are ill-equipped to deal with these racist conversations that need to be had is because the majority of those white male executives have developmental networks that only exist of white men. And if that is the case, how do we better understand the perceptions of black folk if they are not intimately a part of our lives? There is some learning that has to be done in that space. How do we better prepare those organizations to substantively engage in the work, in their developmental network? To those in the local, state, federal, and political space, as well as the philanthropic community, we must make sure we are in deeper relationship with those closest to the issues that we are trying to find answers for. In the Center for Urban Education and Policy, we live by a few axioms. And one of those axioms is those people who are closest to the issues are best suited to create sustainable solutions for those issues. We have to be in deeper relationship with them. We do this by signaling, getting to know, developing, and maintaining relationships with those individuals whose gifts and assets are indigenous to the neighborhoods we are trying to serve. Their voice matters most. We have to listen to and build capacity in that voice. To the faith-based community, it is in your houses of worship that this work I speak of began. It is in your houses of worship where organizational strategies and solutions were found. And I believe it is going to be in your houses of worship where this work will continue. So in closing, please consider this as an invitation to the work. The organizations you see involved in this commemoration are intimately engaged in the work. So if you're already engaged in the work, this is an invitation to partner and collaborate. If you're not engaged in the work, this is an invitation for you to explore where you need to be situated in the work. That said, here are a few opportunities for you to get involved. Number one, we will be having monthly civil rights learning exchanges starting in September. Monthly civil rights learning exchanges starting in September. And this particular protocol is intellectually engineered by none other than Chris Jansen. And it's an opportunity for us to engage in a work in a more egalitarian way, in a more collegial way. So we look forward to you getting involved. Number two, we will have the first annual Civil Rights Conference, which will be a culmination of these learning exchanges the week of August 27th, 2021. That's the first Civil Rights Conference here in Jacksonville, Florida. And it will go on concurrent to the 61st commemoration of the Jacksonville Youth Council NAACP 1960 sit-ins and Exando Saturday. And number three, we have convened a steering committee for a Civil Rights History Museum here in Jacksonville, Florida. So we are excited about this work, and we invite you to get involved with us in this work. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience.